Are you an addict? Think about it for a minute. Do you smoke cigarettes? Are you a nicotine fiend? Maybe you eat a lot of sugar and a lot of junk food and a lot of crap, a lot of fast food, and you're addicted to carbs, you're addicted to sugar. Are you an addict? Are you an alcoholic? Do you like to imbibe on booze? You drink a lot? Alcohol, wine, beer. I know a lot of you out there will say, "Oh no, I'm not an addict. I'm not addicted to anything. I don't do drugs. I'm not a user. I don't overdo it when it comes to eating a lot of white flour or refined sugar." Well, let me tell you, a lot of you out there are addicts, and you don't know it, or you don't think you are, and you're probably addicted to one thing here. And you know what I'm talking about: coffee. You are a caffeine holic. All right? Just admit it. And there's something that I've never been able to understand, and that is why so many people are so addicted to having their coffee. Now, look, I remember when I was a kid, my own mother sometimes, she would say, "Oh, let me have my coffee first. Don't bother me until I have my coffee." Drugs, coffee, caffeine. It's funny how over time things change. And I remember one time in class, it might have been fourth or fifth grade. Now that I think of it, the teacher said, "Let's do a little test here." We were reading out of a book, and it said, "Children should not have," and the answer was too many stimulants or any stimulants. And I remember one girl raised her hand and she said to the teacher, "Too many stimulants?" And she said, "No, ma'am." She was a strict teacher. The answer was any stimulants. Whatever happened to this? I mean, over the years, they changed things. They used to say, "Don't eat eggs. Eggs are going to kill you." Then the egg was okay. Remember that? And there's so many things like that. Now they say caffeine is actually good for you. You want to know something? I don't buy it. I don't buy that caffeine's good for you. At least not in the doses that everybody's having. Maybe caffeine is good for you if you want to look at it in small doses, moderately used. Okay, but you people know what I'm talking about here. Look at the size of this thing. It's as big as my head. Okay? Don't talk to me. I gotta have my coffee. You get up in the morning and right away, you know the story. Get up in the morning right away. It's like, like a coffee. A lot of times I go to my bank, and when I go to my bank, it's in a little like shopping area, and there's a Starbucks over there. And that Starbucks, there's always a line a mile long, no matter what time you go. They usually, if you go there early. Why? Because there's a bunch of coffee addicts that are online. Now, they got to have their Starbucks in the morning. They got to have their latte or whatever the hell it is. I don't do that. Let me tell you my history with coffee, okay? I do like coffee. I do. I mean, the taste of coffee, I enjoy it. When I used to drink coffee, I liked mine light and sweet. Sweet, of course, sugar, another addiction. But I never was a daily coffee drinker, really. I used to have a routine where every Sunday I would go out and with my girl and also with my friends, and we'd have like a Sunday morning ritual. And so once a week, when we would go to a diner or a shop or a restaurant, for breakfast every Sunday. This is going back in the early 1990s, so we're going back a while. I would have 2 cups of coffee with my breakfast. I would have 1 cup, drink it. Then later on, the waitress would come over, refill the cup, and I'd have a second one. And that was it for the whole week. It's not that I don't like coffee. I like the taste of coffee. I just never was that hooked on it. But I know there are people at my record store, sometimes when I hang out at my local record store, They'll say, I don't want any pizza. I don't want any fast food burgers. No, no, I don't want anything from next door. I don't want any kind of chocolate or candy or anything. But boy, when it comes to coffee, every day these same people got to have their coffee. They'll sit there and they'll drink coffee. When they're not drinking hot coffee, they're drinking iced coffee. Anything, so long as it has that caffeine rush. I mean, caffeine is definitely a stimulant. It definitely gives you the jitters, you know. You know it. You know it because you can't get moving in your day. Why do you think it is that some people can't get started in their day? They can't get started because they need that drug. Okay? Caffeine, I don't know if it's actually literally a drug, but even if it's not, it sure acts as a friggin' drug. You know what I mean? Okay? So think about that. What is it with people? Why is it that they can't stop drinking coffee? Why is it? I got this thing as a gag, 1 year. Just a gag gift and everything. I just leave it around just for fun. Finally found some use for it. This is all I use this for, is I don't drink coffee. So anyway, one last thing about my situation with coffee. As I say, I never was a big coffee drinker, and then there would be times where I would go, I would have my day off from work when I was working before I retired, and once in a while, I would love to go to the delicatessen next door. In the morning, I would go and I'd get an egg sandwich on a roll, ham and egg, ham and cheese, and then I'd have a tall coffee, light and sweet, of course, and I would love it. Again, I love the coffee. But what happened to me was in 2014, the year 2014, that's 12 years ago as of this video, I went to breakfast with a friend, and they had these coffee mugs that were pretty big size. It wasn't as big as the one I'm showing you here in the picture, but it was a substantial size. And I remember going there in the morning, and they kept filling it up. And for whatever reason, I was very thirsty that morning, and I was like, I guzzled it. I drank it, filled it up again, guzzled it again. I had 3 or 4 big cups of coffee. That night, I puked my brains out. I don't know. I think I just had too much. Maybe the acidity in there, it was just too much acid. Whatever it was, I puked my brains out. That's a pretty picture, right? And all that was coming out in the bucket I was using was coffee. That was 2014. So as usually happens whenever you have a reaction, whether it's a food poisoning or whether it's, in this case, too much coffee or acid, whatever it was, I never had coffee again. I haven't had a cup of coffee in 12 years. I may go back someday. I may have a cup. In fact, I don't know if it shows in the picture. We do have a coffee maker here. We got a coffee maker here as a gift. We never used it. The two of us, we're not coffee drinkers. My girlfriend doesn't drink coffee either. We must be the only 2 human beings on earth that do not overindulge or indulge at all in coffee. What's your thoughts? Are you a coffee-holic?